If you have any questions, then you can ask also. Because, unless you have a sincerity in your heart, I have a strong belief, and correct me if I'm wrong, the thing that you're doing is not really right. You're doing it for some other purpose, not for the ubudiyyat and for the pleasing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how do you clean your heart? And what are the steps, like 1, 2, 3? How do you remove the dust from your heart? And brothers should address that.
Well, that's definitely a very, very fundamental question, of course. And we have to come to that, of course. And what I have elected to share with you yesterday and today are, if you will, the introductory elements of knowledge necessary to get to that step later. And that, to also elaborate on it, that is the steps and the practical steps also of, if you will, tazkiyatun nafs. It took me 9 days to talk about that during 9 days in a retreat that we had recently in the Adirondacks.
Can I know something before you say?
Yes.
Because I will forget.
Yes.
We are planning to have, inshallah, with the brother, and he has made equipment already. It is not that I made one.
What commitment?
That he will come back for 7 days. If we have a small group of people who are really committed and willing to not eat so much, not rest so much, not sleep so much. And maybe inshallah by the end of this year sometime, another time you can give us. And the only topic is going to be cleanliness of your heart. How do you cleanse your heart? It will cost you very much. The only thing is your time, not eating too much, not sleeping too much, and not resting too much.
Inshallah ta'ala. That much, yes. And it's, of course, it's a long process. Definitely 7 or 9 days is not enough, definitely, to, alhamdulillah, give the subject matter what it really deserves. But alhamdulillah, with a group of good brothers and sisters wanting to change, that should happen often in Muslim communities. And that's what we do. Now I'm gradually making it more public. But that is very, very important. However, briefly said, until such time where some of you can, alhamdulillah, go through such processes, briefly, very, very briefly said, remember the ayah I recited earlier in Surah Al-Kahf, وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَغْفَلْنَا قَلْبَهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ وَكَانَ أَمْرُهُ فُرُطًا. That ayah that I translated earlier also says to us, Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling us here that there are 2 main elements or 2 main points or issues that are at the root of, if you will, the decline, the fall, the ailments of the qalb of an individual. And that ayah I use, remember, to support the understanding that when the qalb is in a state of ailment, the mind, the intellect as well is obscured when it comes to the most fundamental and important issues and matters of life and the purpose of life. So that I spoke of 2 things. Who reminds me of them? Number 1, وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَغْفَلْنَا قَلْبَهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ وَكَانَ أَمْرُهُ فُرُطًا. It tells us about ghafla, and it tells us about basically اتباع الهوى or الذنوب. In other words, this is the poison. Al-ghafla. Al-ghafla is a state in which the person is not focused on Allah Azza wa Jal. That is how it is defined in this ilm. When a person is not focused on Allah Azza wa Jal, and therefore is not in a state of dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, as taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and practiced by him and his companions and followers radiallahu ta'ala anhum wa ardahum. If, very briefly, train yourselves daily to be in a state of dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, Wallahi al-Azim, it does wonders. Wallahi al-Azim, it does wonders. Number two, with that, not without it, you have to go uphill with the nafs and not downhill. Remember? You commit yourself not to indulge the nafs in its shahawat of at least those 7 keys that we spoke about, until right and wrong, when we follow those 7 shahawat, become the right and wrong, become what the nafs views as right and wrong. Remember the deformity in the mirror. So in other words, stay away with all the strength you can develop, and gradually, inshallah ta'ala, from dhunub, disobeying Allah Azza wa Jal. Major dhunub, minor dhunub, finer minor dhunub. الذنوب التي هي من الكبائر، الذنوب التي هي من الصغائر، وحتى اللمم. Watch for that. And those dhunub have to do with the rights of Allah and the rights of ibadullah. Dhunub pertain to the violations of what we call huququllah, the rights of Allah Azza wa Jal, and violations of the rights of the ibad of Allah Azza wa Jal, of other human beings and animals and plants and so on. And we need the ilm that will teach us what is this huququllah Azza wa Jal. What are these huququllah Azza wa Jal? What are these huququl ibad? What are the violations of the huquq of al-ibad? What are the consequences of that? And of course, if we don't have ilm of what is wrong, we're not going to stay away from what is wrong. Especially when we have indulged our nufus, perhaps, my dear brothers and sisters, up to this point in a cattle-like behavior or in a predatory behavior. The qalb is in what state? Your qalb and mine is in what state now? We need a lot of work of staying away from dhunub and beginning the process of cleansing and cleansing and cleansing and cleansing. Staying away from dhunub, all types of dhunub, and continuous dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal is the very general recipe summarized in these words that take much longer. And perhaps to help you and me, do I have time to say one other thing?